Hello students of class 5, we have already started discussing the chapter Great Voyages of Discovery. Now the previous day we discussed about what were the reasons for the Great Voyages of Discovery. In the previous class we had also I had also mentioned about the explorers, the famous explorers. Now in today's class we are going to focus on those explorers, those famous explorers and the voyages they had undertaken and the routes they had undertaken. Now it was not that all of them had taken different routes. Some have taken the same route, some had taken the different routes, but each of their voyages had very important results. What were they? We are going to look into it. Now first explorer is a Portuguese sailor, and he was also the Prince of Portugal. He was known as Henry the Navigator. Now, Henry the Navigator, he thought that if he could sail around the northwest coast of Africa, he could reach India. So he set out with his ships between 1420 C and 1460 C. It was that he couldn't go much further, but his voyage had an important result, which was that he could help in expanding trade. Next is Barton Meudias. He was also a Portuguese sailor and he also followed the same route. But he set out with his 3 ships in the year 1487. But the good thing was that he had an advantage of strong winds and currents. And because he had the advantage of strong winds and currents, he could sail right round till the southern tip of Africa, till the Cape of Good Hope. And he named the southern tip of Africa as Cape of Good Hope. Now Bartholomew Diaz wanted to go further, but he couldn't go because his crew members were too tired. So he had to return to Portugal. Next we have Christopher Columbus. He had a different thinking altogether. He thought that no, if I can sail towards the west, westwards, then I could reach faster. So he sailed entirely in the different direction, towards the west. That means towards America, North America and South America. His voyage took him to the Bahama Islands. He made some more voyages from there, where he discovered new islands in Caribbean Sea and in the north coast of South America. But a very important result of his voyage was the discovery of a new continent, America. Now, Christopher Columbus was an Italian sailor, but he had lived in Spain for a long time. So he was helped by the King and Queen of Spain to make these voyages. Now what happened was that Christopher Columbus, when he reached this Bahama Islands, he thought that he had actually reached India, but he actually reached the place which is now known as West Indies. So as I said, he made a very important discovery of a new continent, America. Next comes Vasco da Gama. Vasco da Gama was the explorer who was successful in reaching India. He had set out in the year 1497 CE, and he followed the same route as Henry the Navigator and Barton Meudias. He sailed right round the southern tip of Africa, that is the Cape of Good Hope, and he got southern tip, and then he sailed around the Arabian Sea, and he reached the port of Calicut in 1498 CE. Then he returned to Portugal in 1499, and he took a lot of spices and other goods, and he returned back in 1499. The important result was that he was the first successful explorer who actually found out a direct route between Europe and Asia. The next comes Ferdinand Magellan. Ferdinand Magellan, he took the route of Christopher Columbus, and he sailed right till the tip of South America. This South America, okay, and he crossed the Pacific Ocean, and he reached the Philippine Islands, but he couldn't carry out his voyage further. Why? Because he was killed. But his crew members, they did not stop. They did not return in the same route. They then sailed around that Cape of Good Hope, and then they reached they sailed around across the Indian Ocean around the Cape of Good Hope, and they reached Spain in 1522 CE. An important result of their of his voyage was that they proved, okay, that the earth was round, that the world was round. Now these were about these explorers. Now, what was the result of these voyages? The results were both good as well as bad. What were the good results? The good results were that they began to trade far and wide, so there was expansion in trade, and there was also many new goods were introduced to Asia, and from Asia to Europe, and also from America to Europe. Some of the goods which were introduced from Asia were spices, gems, paper, ivory, textiles, and those porcelain, and those from America were potatoes, cocoa, corn, tobacco, all these. But the bad effects were colonization of Asia, Africa, and Latin America. What happened? The areas that were conquered became the colonies. That is, people from outside came to these countries, and they started ruling. As you have already read it, even the Britishers came as traders, but then they turned into rulers. And another was that the slave trade, which began in Africa, which was not at all a good effect of this great voyages of discovery. Okay, so this brings us to the end of the chapter. Thank you, students. All the best.